Hello. In this video, we are going to be looking at the fifth activity in this assignment, which is ecosystem management. And there are 3 parts to this activity, so you'll be looking at 3 different quick, short videos to get you started and to get you through this assignment. So, as the video says, let's get started. So the activity looks like this: ecosystem management. Again, there'll be 3 parts, so we're looking at part 1 right now. So ecosystem management, part 1, getting started video. So we've learned about the grasslands in California. We've learned that these grasslands are changing, and they've changed in the past. So that kind of comes to, well, how do we manage these? If we don't, do we want them to change, and why do they need to change? So ecosystem management, definition of it, let me get my laser pointer so we can read. Ecosystem management: actions and decisions of individuals, organizations, and government entities related to maintaining ecosystems. So we're looking at maintaining an ecosystem based on decisions of individuals, organizations, and government entities. Okay, we maintain these ecosystems and providing ecosystem goods and ecosystem services for current and future generations. So this is not the same as ecosystem management, is not the same as habitat restoration. Now there's big restoration projects going on Marsh Creek. It's down at the end of Marsh Creek. It's called the Dutch Slough Restoration. It'll be slated to be finished probably in 2020. And that is where they are returning an ecosystem back to something else. They're transforming it from one thing to something that it was before. And at Dutch Slough, they're changing it from an old dairy and cattle ranch back into a marsh. Ecosystem management is an effort to balance the needs of people with the goal of maintaining the ecosystem. So it's balancing our needs, or the needs and wants of people, with hopefully keeping an ecosystem healthy, or at least balanced. So why should a grassland be protected? Why do we need it to be maintained? Well, grasslands contribute to the biological diversity of an area, which we've talked about before. Having different types of plants and different types of animals in an area, the more there are, the better it is for an ecosystem. They provide habitat for many species, including birds and deer that are hunted for food and sport. So not only is it good for just the ecosystem, it's also good for us, and we're part of the ecosystem also. But we do obtain food and sport from these areas. They provide aesthetic beauty for outdoor enthusiasts. So last night I was out taking pictures of the sunset. In fact, I was on one of these ridges by here. And again, many hikers go and hike and enjoy and appreciate the outdoors. They provide recreational sites for wildlife watchers and naturalists. Again, that's part of the enjoying the aesthetic beauty, but it goes beyond that to understanding the creatures in the ecosystem, which is part of this bird watching and naturalist. But then again, they also provide mineral resources. And if you go down Marsh Creek Road into Clayton, you'll see that there's a mine there, all right, where they are mining rock for cement. Right, and right there on Marsh Creek, they used to mine mercury. And if you go to Black Diamond Mines, they mined coal. And they also mined sand there in the 1950s. And as I mentioned, in Clayton, they mine aggregate for construction. So lands also provide areas for mineral resources that we need. So we need to use them, protect them, we need to manage them. Ecosystem management. Okay, so let's get on to this activity. So the instructions are: several different roles are involved in making decisions about ecosystem management. Identify the types of people or agencies and write the agency or types of people under the correct column. To get you started on this activity, please watch the Getting Started video. Yay, that's this. All right. So you're going to need to write some things onto your paper. So we're looking at the decision makers. And decision makers are people who decide what the objectives are. They are the ones who decide what is the purpose of the grasslands that we're looking at. Is it going to be recreation, commerce, habitat protection for a critter? What is going to happen here? So go ahead and write that definition right underneath decision makers. So you'll be putting it right here in the decision makers. And decision makers are people who decide what the objectives are. So I'll give you a second to do that. If you need to, pause the video if you need more time. Now we're going to move on to analysts. So analysts are people who predict the consequences of different management strategies. They predict the consequences of different management strategies. So you'll be writing that definition right underneath analysts. And again, what they do is they gather information about the grasslands. So they're usually the researchers and the scientists and people who are gathering information, and with that information they're able to predict the consequences of different management strategies that have been set up by management or decision makers. So I'll give you a second to write that in. Stop the video if you need to. And now we move on to stakeholders. The stakeholders are people who have an interest in the objectives but do not have ownership or authority to make decisions. So you're going to go ahead and write that over here. They are people who have an interest in objectives but do not have ownership or authority to make decisions. So they might not own the land, but they have an interest in what happens on that land because they use it, but they don't have the authority to make decisions. So now let's go to our assignment and get you started on this. So these have been filled in, and what you're going to do is you are going to put these different names into one of these categories, and it's just based on what you think they do. Now the numbers do work out that there are 20 of these. 6 plus 8 is 14. 14 plus 6 plus 8 6 plus 8 is 14, plus 6 is 20, so there are 20 slots. So they should all fit in the right places. So let's do the first 3. Consumer of ecosystem goods and ecosystem services produced on the land. So they're a consumer. They buy goods from the ecosystem and services produced. So that's not really a decision maker. It's definitely not an analyst, so that's probably a stakeholder. They have an interest because they're buying stuff, but they I'm not going to be able to do that. I was hoping to just copy and paste, but I can't, so I'll just put it down here. So then you just write it down here. Consumer of ecosystem goods and ecosystem services produced on the land. So that one's gone. Go to the next one, Department of Land Management. So it's a department, so probably federal or state, and they manage the land. So that one seems like it would not be an analyst. That's definitely a decision maker. Department of Land Management, because they are actually managing the land. They're making decisions about the land. Demographers, and those are people who study the structure of human population. So they're studiers. Anyone who's a researcher or analyst or gathering data, they're an analyst. So demographer. All right, so that's how you do this. So you're going to finish this up. You're going to go through and categorize these. If you get stuck, please talk to your science teacher or any of your teachers and get those put into the right order. In the next video we'll be doing part 2.